TNA Destination X 2007. I'll tell you what, if you hate just one-on-one regular wrestling matches, this might be the show for you. We got bull rope matches, chicken wing matches, scaffold matches, we got casket matches, we got street fights, we got the Great Muta, we got Christy Hemme, we got just a wonderful charcuterie board of Vince Russo right here on the Apron Bump Podcast.
It's the hardest, talk around and disregard it, strip you off the ground, show you what heart is, standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this, let's get it started.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's... What month are we in? May. Hope everybody's May is going swimmingly. May the 4th be with... Wait, what date does this come out? May the 15th be with you, huh? Come on. Is that how you do the thing? No, happy you're here because we got a quite the ditty of a show today. We got Destination X 2007. We got a little tits and ass wrestling on the docket for today's episode. Let me just, before we get into the whole meat and potatoes thing, let me take you back to March of 2007 because let's see, I had just turned 14. Yeah, I had just turned 14, so I had it's probably starting to grow pubes. I probably had a really bad fake skater boy haircut. Just kicked off my etnies, pulled off my whitey tighties, and turned on this TV and sat down on the couch and watched this bad boy live. Yes, this is the up until the most recent, what was it, Hard to Kill? Whenever TNA did their whole rebrand thing. Outside of that, this show right here, Destination X07, is the only TNA pay-per-view that I've ever purchased and watched live. Now you may be asking, hardest part of the ring, why this show? Well, pull up the card and you'll see the outrageous... We're entering a period where this is becoming very commonplace. The last show we covered, I believe, Against All Odds, was in a similar boat. It's every match has a weird gimmick, a crazy storyline, but with some good wrestling embedded. And I'll be Franklin with you. The match that sold me on this show, the match that made me go to my parents, pull on their pant legs. I don't know why I'm doing that at 14. I'm 6 foot tall at that point. Pulling at their pant legs, being like, hey, I need you to shekel out the $30 or whatever the hell it was. I need to watch this live. The reason I did this is because I wanted to see somebody die on live TV, mainly from the Elevation X match, but also because of the Last Rites match, because they've been building that as if somebody's going to pass away and ascend to heaven on live TV. So I was very amped. It was a happening, this show. And so I was very, very happy to rewatch this show. And honestly, because not everything lives up to your expectations, right? In fact, Bound for Glory 06, like I had always built that up in my head as one of my favorite shows ever. But then I watched it back and I was like, it's not that great. Destination X07, maybe my favorite TNA show so far that I've covered. Maybe. It's not the best. Let's get this straight. It's not the best one. And we'll get into why. But I was thoroughly entertained throughout. And there was some great, the main event, Christian's defending his title against Samoa Joe. Just a straight up one-on-one match. Maybe the most clean-cut main event I've ever seen in TNA. Maybe one of Christian's best matches of his entire career. To this day. Top 5, at least, as far as singles matches. Samoa Joe, I mean, the two of them had great chemistry in the main event, and we'll talk about why that match was so good. The rest of the card, like I said, we got a Last Rites match between Sting and Abyss. We got a double bull rope match. We got a crossface chicken wing match. We got the Elevation X match between AJ Styles and Rhino, the debut of this match type. I don't know how many times. They might have done it like one more time. I don't remember, but it's like a scaffold match, which poses a lot of. It's a very tense match. I'll say that. We got Kurt Angle versus Scott Steiner, which is a shit show. There's just lots going on in this show. Jerry Lynn versus Chris Sabin, 2 out of 3 falls. This show is dense with just stuff to talk about. And I can't wait to get to it with my lovely, lovely guest, Greg Morgan from GoodMicWork. Commentaries, returning to the show, always a good old time with Gregorio. Go check out GoodMicWork wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube. He does live streams. He covers the current product. He does watch-alongs of old pay-per-views. He does reviews of old shows. A smorgasbord of great content over there at GoodMicWork. So go check out him wherever you listen. Like I said, wherever you listen to podcasts on YouTube. Follow him on social media at GoodMicWork. I'll put all of that shit in the description. Great dude. I was able to meet him at WrestleMania 39 briefly. But yeah, GoodMicWork, it was one of the first podcasts that I got into in terms of wrestling. Like back in the day. I mean, he's been doing this for forever. And so it was cool to have him on here. Talk a little tits and ass wrestling. It was fun to throw a little curveball at him because TNA is not really his... it's not really where he goes to, and for the most part. So we had a fun old time on this one. So go check that out. Go check him out. Check me out at Apron Bump on all the social medias. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube if you're not already, for the video versions of this podcast, as well as other YouTube exclusive content. Of course, listen to this wherever you listen to podcasts, at Apron Bump on all the social medias. Join the Discord. Links in the description below. We talk wrestling. We talk other stuff. We send nudes. We do all of that. And with that, oh, hey, if you like TNA, you like this era of TNA, well, I suggest you go to apronbump.com and you go to the episodes tab. And you can select any promotion, any era of wrestling that I cover, all in chronological order. And you can select TNA. And I've covered every single TNA, every single TNA's pay-per-view from the very first 3-hour pay-per-view in 2004, all the way through 05 through 06, and up here till 07, March of 07. Covered every pay-per-view in that window. So binge away. All of it's chronological, so you can relive the journey or live it for the first time. And by the way, all these pay-per-views are on YouTube. So if you ever want to like watch the shows before you listen or after you listen, they're on Impact's YouTube channel, their official YouTube channel. The pay-per-views are on there in full, so it's pretty cool. So go do that. You'll maximize your enjoyment of the bullshit that I ramble about on here. So I've babbled enough. Let's get right into it, baby. TNA Destination X 2007 with myself and GoodMicWork. I don't know. I have some family there. It is across the country from me. I'm in Virginia.
Oh, that's right. You're in Virginia. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But how close is it to you?
I'm in San Diego, so it's about a 5-hour drive.
Oh, that's doable though. That's not like crazy.
Yeah, I'd rather do that than worry about booking flights. That way I can just focus on spending money and and things like that, on the trip. So yeah, well, I drove to Double or Nothing and to SummerSlam in Vegas. It wasn't bad. Okay. Yeah.
Kind
of straight shot through the desert.
Nice.
No hills.
Philly was like that. I didn't go this year, but it's about 5 hours from me. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I wouldn't want to deal with that fucking cold weather and wind or whatever the hell. But
yeah, wait till one comes to Atlanta or something. There's gotta be.
Yeah, they're like never like Philly's the closest it's ever been to me, other than like, cause it's always like Florida or New York. It's always like 8 hours or
I lived down in Wilmington, North Carolina for 20 years. And
nice.
I would always hit the Carolina shows, the Charlottes and the Greensboros and the Fayettevilles and the Raleigh, and I'd go up to Richmond and Hampton and Norfolk too. Yeah. I was at the DX Invasion Nitro and all that. So yeah, I loved going to those shows.
I live about 5 minutes away from the Scope. So
nice.
Whenever they're here, obviously I go. I could walk if I wanted to. I never do want to, but
yeah, that's so great about our little pocket of the country out there, is that all those cities are relatively close. So you could hit them all, or go to the Raw and then the pay-per-view and the house show, all that stuff. So
right.
Loved that back in the day.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get another Destination X sometime around here. Huh?
Yeah, I know. I don't get much looks at TNA, so I'm glad that you wanted to do this because I'm like, yeah, this one reminded me why I never really watched it, but there was a couple of fun moments that just made me like say, I love wrestling, when I was watching this.
Dude, TNA is such a shit. Because I was excited to give this to you because I know you don't really, TNA isn't necessarily your forte. So it's
Yeah.
funny, especially this era of TNA. It's so wacky. Like you pull up the card and it's just pure comedy. Every match has a fucking stipulation, has a silly gimmick associated to it. It's very Russo heavy, this show.
Yeah.
And we'll obviously dive into all this stuff. But yeah, man, just, initial thoughts on this show that you witnessed?
I found myself laughing a lot. I didn't find myself getting like too upset, but I could see like maybe at the time watching it, I'm like, what the hell am I looking at here? But I've always kind of liked the talent, but I think overall this show, I think they've had better ones. There just felt like a lot of like just phoned in act. Even that opener with Team 3D, Bubba looked like shit, out there. He just nobody like they just don't look like nobody looked like themselves really. And I always hated the Impact Zone too. Was never really a fan of that just environment. Even though it was probably smart business to produce all their TV there.
Right.
It just came off. It came off kind of like just low budget or something. And this was kind of a reminder of that. But luckily we had the Steiners and we had coffins being lowered from the ceiling and people fighting on scaffolds. So all that made up for it. But overall probably was a good reminder to me why I never really got super into TNA. I think it was my take on it. But yeah, I've got some opinions as we go through the matches here, but it was I watched most of it chuckling most of the time.
Yeah,
So.
no, it's a very weird because this is like when I was starting to get into TNA. And I remember this era being a lot better than it was because, like you said, the talent is there. I mean, it's a stacked roster even at this point. You got Kurt, AJ, Sting, like all throughout the card. It's just like Hall of Famer, legend, like the Indies, like the talent's all there, but it's just packaged in a weird way. But like I said, we'll get into it. And yeah, the Impact Zone is something that I definitely agree with because like the production, like you turn on the show and you get this video package that's very cinematic. It's very dramatic. It's like, oh, we're gearing up for something awesome here. And then it cuts to just 200 people. And it's very, especially if you're watching the TV from week to week, it's the same place. So there's nothing that makes it feel like a bigger show. But
and I was all for at the time, still am, alternatives to WWE and stuff. I just wish the alternative was a little better than it was. That's for the most part. They had their moments. I don't think they were completely useless, but some of these pay-per-views, like you said, just the way it's put together, I'm like, what the hell? Game of Mad Libs.
Yeah, it's Mad Libs is right, and that's actually very perfect for this opening match. It is a ghetto brawl street fight.
Yep.
Got the Dudley Boys, Team 3D, taking on the Latin American Exchange, the team of Hernandez and Homicide. So you've been watching wrestling a little longer than I have. So maybe you know this. Maybe you can answer this for me. What's the difference between a street fight and a ghetto street fight?
Oh, okay. Well, they first established the rules in the 1940s. Most people know this. And with the ghetto street fights, you're required to have bandanas. Bandanas in the ghetto street fights. If you have those, then scholars still debate whether that's the official meaning of a ghetto match, but I believe that it is. If you got bandanas on, that's what it means, and you can use any weapons, but electronics are more common in ghetto brawls than regular street fights. Street fights like chairs and tables, ghetto brawls like CD players and VCRs and stuff like that. That's what I've always remembered from, studying history throughout the last 100 years of wrestling.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Because I always remember like New Jack would always bring in like typewriters and VCRs and hit people. So that makes sense. He was a bandana wearer at times. So
so I think maybe that's what the official rules are for these matches, but no DQ either way.
Yeah. No DQ and also non-title, which drives me crazy. So just a little like backstory here. I mean, maybe you got it from the video package before the match, but LAX Team 3D, it's become kind of a personal thing where in the pay-per-view before this, they had a Little Italy street fight. And I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could tell me all the differences between that and this. So, but that's just a rabbit hole. I don't know if we want to go down, but
probably.
So it's just a series of random no DQ matches with quirky names to them, but it's never for the titles, which LAX are the champions here. So I think I understand. I understand maybe they just don't want Team 3D to win the titles right away because they've been there for like almost 2 years now. Maybe they just want to prolong them finally winning the big one. Yeah. But at the same time, like, it's a pay-per-view. Why not have it be for the titles? I don't know. What did you think of that, or did you even notice?
Yeah, I did notice because I didn't write down in my notes wrong. LAX won. And they're the champs, right? So why wasn't it just a title? If they're going to win the match, if they're going to win anyway, why not just make it for the titles if it didn't matter? That's even crazier. I would understand maybe like if Team 3D won, maybe they just don't want to put the belts on them right now, keeps the champs, keeps the belts on the champions that they want, but they won. So I don't know why they just didn't make it for the titles unless Team 3D didn't want a title match loss in the record books, but I don't know why they care about that.
Well, it's personal. It's not about titles. It's about grudge.
It's personal, but I just think if they're going to win, just put the titles on the line anyway, because it is a pay-per-view, and I'm assuming fans did pay for this, right?
It's
because you pay per the view, right?
So, is that it's not a pay-per-view? It's not a view on paper?
Yeah, no, it's pay per each time you view, I guess is what it means. But I think fans ponied up for this, so the least you can do is put titles on the line, especially when there was no title change.
I didn't even, that's a really good point.
But I'm really bad with history though, too. Like I know more about algebra than I do about TNA. Like I know a little, but I'm not good at it. So I don't know, like, like you said, the backstory, I had no idea about the Little Italy match or anything really going on here. But I thought what they added to it, we had run-ins out the ass on this whole show. So
it's a few of them here. So for the Little Italy match, so that was brought about because LAX went and attacked Bubba's uncle and his pizzeria. So that's why they had the Little Italy street fight. But then after that, LAX went to Devon's trainer's school, Johnny Rodz, and attacked Johnny Rodz at his school. So now it's double personal. So now they had the Italy street fight to represent Bubba at the last pay-per-view. Now, I guess in their minds, a ghetto brawl represents Devon, very 2007. But yeah, the only like aesthetic here for a ghetto brawl that I noticed was like the aprons had like faux like metal with graffiti on them that they were like kind of hitting each other with. I don't know what the deal was there, but
it felt. Oh, hey, buddy. Just
cameo.
Watching it's crazy how like the shape that Bubba Dudley got himself in like later in that singles run and stuff, because he looked like a talent that was showing up, phoning it in with those long jeans and the cutoff shirt. I'm like, he just threw some shit on that was in his, his bag and just wore that out there. And he just didn't look like, they just didn't feel like the Dudleys, and they were only a year removed from their WWE run. So maybe Bubba was just not really giving a shit at the time or whatever, but he would turn that around.
Yeah. I always, because he's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, which like he's not the first one to do that, but it's like they're clean. It's like he just went to JCPenney, bought them, and then put them on. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, and that's all I thought about him. Like something's just off about him. He just didn't look right in this match to me. I think he looks better now than he did in this match.
I would agree. I would agree. But ultimately, I mean, it's a pretty hot way to start a show. We saw this on Backlash recently. As of recording this, it started with a street fight that had like a lot of crowd brawling, and that's what this reminded me of. The crowd was getting interactive with it. There was people using their crutches and water bottles or whatever the hell. So it was it had a fun energy to it once it got going, but it was pretty silly otherwise. But the Dudleys take a beer break during the middle of it.
Yeah,
that's something. That's a thing that happened.
They seem to like to brawl into the crowd in TNA and come back into the ring. I guess they did that everywhere, but that was a staple for them there.
Yeah, when you're in that impact zone, man, you got to explore the space. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Well, the match is, it's going, but then the Latino Nation make their way, which are just a bunch of nameless Latinos.
Yeah. NXT
storming. Yeah. I was looking at like
NXT guys.
But yeah, so it's obviously, LAX is their posse, I guess. They storm the ring. But then Johnny Rodz, who LAX attacked, comes in and makes the save, takes out, I don't know, 20 Latinos by himself.
At least, yeah. Because he's young. I mean, he's only 68. I mean, he's got a lot of gas left in the tank.
Right. Yeah. It's when you get to like 69 is when everything
Yeah,
goes
when
down.
downhill,
There's something
yeah.
there. But then Devon's, how did they, is like Devon's brothers from the hood.
Yeah,
then
Devon,
intervene.
that's what they said. I'm like, wait, his shoot brothers? I didn't know what they were talking about here, but yeah, his brothers
He's got a
showed
lot
up
of brothers.
too. Yeah.
Uh,
Are we allowed to be talking about this? Yeah. Yeah, Devon's brothers
2007.
from the hood came to help too, but didn't really know who they were.
They're just some brothers.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
some brothers.
I'm helping out.
They had
That's good.
bandanas, so they fit in, I think.
Yeah.
So, and Hernandez eventually gets the 3D. But then as the Dudleys make the pin, Machete, who was one of the Latino Nation guys, pulls the referee so he can't make the pin. Bubba Ray dives to the outside, takes out all the 20 Latinos at once.
Yeah, that was a decent dive by Bubba.
Not bad. Not a bad Bubba dive.
Yeah.
As if this match needed any more hats on a hat. Alex Shelley comes in and because his whole deal is he's in the paparazzi, he's filming stuff, so he has his camera and he hits Devon in the head with a camera and does a frog splash through the table onto Devon, and Homicide makes the pin, gets the win in this non-title ghetto street fight. So
yeah. It was, I mean, a good way to kind of get the crowd going for an opener. You're right. You know, just a wild match, no rules, lots of weapons and brawling and run-ins and all that. So it's, you know, I think a good way to start. From what I could tell, the Impact Zone thought this match was fine.
Yeah.
It was just weird to me, and a lot of extra parts. And the Alex Shelley bit at the end, I was having trouble kind of understanding because I didn't know, you know, what the story was there, but the paparazzi thing and all of that. So Homicide got the pin, and LAX beats Team 3D in a non-title match.
Yeah. I mean, for you coming in cold, this is a lot to throw at you right away.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was like, my notes were a mess. I'm like, what am I watching here? What's happening now? Yeah.
Yeah. Alex Shelley, I mean, and this is one thing I do like that TNA did, because nowadays, you know, if somebody's like when AJ and LA Knight were attacked, or when LA Knight attacked AJ at his home, it's like, why is there a camera crew there? Although I think they did explain that. But there's like situations where it's like, why is a camera there filming this?
Yeah.
But when TNA does it, they basically, because like LAX hired Alex to bring his camera to film them beating up Johnny Rods or beating up the guy in the restaurant. So there's that to tie in there. And then the Dudleys were like, Alex, why would you co-sign this? So it's a whole, so they tried to tie it all together, but it was just.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the effort. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. You always wonder why there happens to be a camera in the woods or wherever they happen to be in WWE. So at least they have a reason, you know, and like kind of like Six did that in the NWO, you know, had the little camera with him. Remember, you know,
good call. But after that, the gimmicks just keep on gumming. We got a double bull rope match, tag team match, and a double bull rope intergender match.
Yeah.
A team of Jacqueline and James Storm. You fuck off, cat. He loves. He's like he's trying to protect me from this mic. Jackie Moore and James Storm versus Gail Kim and Petey Williams.
Yeah. So it's an intergender bull rope tornado tag, right? Because they're all in there, right?
That'd be great if it wasn't tornado and they had to be on the apron and holding on to the. I mean, I do think, because the ladies are bull rope to each other and the guys are bull rope to each other. I think it should just be one cumulative. Everybody's tied to the same thing, right?
Yeah. Heck yeah, yeah. One human centipede for the whole match.
Okay, well, I had a different graph in my head, but I'm with you. I'm willing to hear you out.
It's Russo. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, no, you make a good point.
But yeah, if they were all just tethered by their hands, would be fun. They could do ring around the rosy and shit. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah, or like one ring in the middle and everybody's attached to like one carabiner or whatever the hell, you know, they could make it work.
It would definitely be better, whatever this fart of a match was. That's
You weren't a fan of this double bull rope tornado tag team match?
It was a mess. My notes only say terrible on the thing, but I have the finish too. But I'm like, I just wrote terrible. I did not like this one. It felt like it was. I guess that was the point, is for it to be all over the place. That was the point. I don't know. It just came off weird to me. I did not enjoy it. I like the previous one better.
Yeah, it was because it's also like a side feud to. Are you familiar with the team AMW?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
James Storm, Chris Harris. So we are fresh off of them breaking up. Chris Harris is still out because he got a beer bottle to the eye from James Storm.
Okay.
So Petey was like friends with them. So he's like, James, what are you doing? No, that's your friend. So he's kind of like the middleman. So that's why him and James have beef.
Gotcha.
And then Gail was the only woman on the roster, so they had to recruit someone else, and it happened to be Jacqueline. So there's not a lot of like cohesion here as like why this match is happening.
Yeah, I love Jackie and Gail. I love them individually as wrestlers and stuff. I don't know if the whole thing coming together. I didn't totally love, but I think Gail Kim and Jackie Moore. Did they do anything other than this in TNA?
That's a good question. I mean, this is a very rare like women's match. First of all, this before the title was introduced. Like I said, Gail is like the only real wrestler on the roster other than Jackie.
Knockouts
So
title yet or anything, right? No knockouts title yet. Yeah.
We got a lot more to say about the women later, but it's the match. It was what it was. I mean, was it Gail or Jackie that got hogtied to the ring post? I think it was Jackie, right?
Yeah, I think so. Jackie was up though for the finish for the low blow.
Yes.
They tied her up.
Yeah. A lot of tying up, a lot of kinkiness in this one. So
yeah,
it's for a certain demographic, I guess.
Yeah.
I did note that James Storm channeled his WrestleMania 10 Macho Man in this one with a shoddy hogtie job onto Petey.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess how many
didn't do a good job at WrestleMania 10 either.
I guess how many spots can you do with a fucking rope? But
I know.
Ultimately, Jackie hits a low blow onto Petey Williams as Petey's gearing up for the Canadian Destroyer, and this allows James Storm to hit the super kick for the win. So heating up James Storm, going with him, building to an eventual match with his former partner Chris Harris. So it served a purpose, I guess, but this felt like filler to me.
Yeah, I know. It was just I just kept telling myself, like, this is pay-per-view. I just expected more out of pay-per-view from this, but I don't know. The business wasn't great in WWE either in 07. So I can't really blame them. It's just the time period, but it just didn't feel pay-per-view-y to me.
Would it have been better if it was a dog collar instead of a bull rope?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe tie up Jackie and Gail together and just let them just brutalize each other. Might have been more fun. But it just felt awful.
No kink shaming here. You like what you like.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, Scott Steiner's backstage. He's filling up the announcer. Lauren Thompson, I believe her name is, the blonde that was interviewing everybody.
Yeah.
So the whole thing. So Christian is the world champion at this point, and he's building himself a faction. He's got Tomko. He's got Scott Steiner, kind of. But Tomko is in Japan for this pay-per-view. I don't know where the hell he is. I don't know if he's wrestling in Japan or if he's
I think he is. I think he was over there winning belts or something.
Doing not fucking around in the six-sided bullshit. Yeah. I hear you. So Tomko's gone. Christian's out because he doesn't want to go into the main event against Samoa Joe alone. He needs to, make sure he has his boys behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And as Steiner's backstage, feeling up the announcer, Christian comes in, is like, Steiner, I need your head in the game. Are you going to be with me in the main event? And Steiner's like, go fuck yourself, basically. And then Christian abducts this interviewer, and it's just a thread that runs throughout the show.
Yeah, he's going around trying to find backup, right?
Yeah, and I guess we'll touch on that when we get there. But
yeah,
and that brings us to, we can't just have a one-on-one match. So this next match is a cross-face chicken wing match. Senshi versus Austin Starr, featuring Bob Backlund.
Did they just get access to Backlund randomly, and then they're like, "We'll just make a chicken wing match around him"? Is that how? Like that's. And I don't even remember low key being called Senshi. I don't know what that's all about either. I kind of remember the Austin Starr stuff with Aries, but I was like, when? Yeah. How long was he going by Shenshi or Senshi? I don't know. Just my memory's gone with him. But the chicken wing match is like random between these two guys. But
right. Two just workhorses, two indie, Ring of Honor, like pure wrestling guys. But let's throw on a chicken wing stipulation onto this, which
takes away, near falls and all the fun that they could have,
right, when
they're just going for the chicken wing the whole time. So it was kind of like a weird stipulation that was almost unnecessary. But sometimes I feel it was like they just got access to Backlund and were like, well, let's work them into a match or something. Is the way it kind of felt like to me. But
so I'm pretty much just as confused as you are. So Bob Backlund in a prior pay-per-view there was a match between Senshi and Austin Starr, but there were judges. So if the match came to a time limit draw, there were judges, and Bob Backlund was one of the judges. And Austin Starr ended up losing that match, and he blamed Bob Backlund. So he was like getting him in his face, shoving him, and ended up getting the chicken wing slapped on him. So Bob Backlund has been a thorn in Austin's side, you could say.
So there is a reason. They just weren't just, oh, let's just do this. Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they had a backstory here. There was a reason Backlund was around, and it tied into Austin Starr. And so, okay, so it actually did make sense.
I mean,
going into this blind, I was just, yeah. At least they had something going on with them.
Yeah, I mean, there is something. This is a period where, you know, because these guys are X Division guys, they're making it a real point to try to give these guys characters. Because while like the work rate is there, obviously, I mean, low key, Austin Aries, two of the best at this point. Like they didn't have much of a character to latch on to. That's why Austin Starr is now the very flamboyant, like glasses and tassels. It's almost like a tongue in cheek kind of like, oh, this is what you want. This is the WWE thing. Is this what's gonna? So and then Senshi is Senshi because I don't know. He came back from Japan and wanted a Japanese name.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Sometimes you just become a Senshi. You never been a Senshi in your life?
Yeah, no, not recently. But it's like, fine, okay, you want to be called Senshi? I'll call you Senshi, whatever you want. No problem.
Yeah. But all that said, though, these guys did manage to have a pretty good match, like an okay match given the circumstances. Even though, you know, just to clarify, it is a cross-face chicken wing match. You can only win with the cross-face chicken wing. Bob Backlund comes out at some point, and Austin Starr has the chicken wing on Senshi, but Bob Backlund sees that Senshi's foot is under the ropes, and he points that out to the ref. So he essentially saves the match for Senshi. And then, you know, Austin's pissed. He's like, hey, what are you doing, old man? Even though this match is like a Bob Backlund match. It's like, what are you doing out here? It's like, this is my thing. But eventually, Senshi wins. Pretty slick transition into the chicken wing. He does like an O'Connor roll, rolls back into the chicken wing, and Austin has to tap out.
Yeah, nowhere for him to go.
Yeah, like I said, it was given the silly circumstances, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that one?
You know, not really. It was just I was worried that the chicken wing stip kind of handcuffed him a little bit, but they still did fine. Those guys are both awesome. So it was one of the more acceptable matches on the card for me. I mean, I always love seeing Bob Backlund. It's just sometimes, you know, he could have just been out there. I mean, did it have to even be a chicken wing match? He could have just been involved without
special ref.
Yeah, exactly. Or something like that, or just some other role than making it a chicken wing match, but whatever. It was fine. It was less offensive than some of the other matches on the show were to me.
You mean like the Heartbreakers?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell was going on with that.
Were you a big Heart Throbs guy in WWE?
I didn't remember who they were. When I was watching the match, I'm like, okay, these guys are somebody. So I looked them up, and then I'm like, oh, they were Heartthrobs, and I have a blip of a memory of them. So virtually none. I don't really remember them or Yoshi Tatsu very much for some reason.
Yoshi Tatsu taking strays for no reason.
Yeah, he's just another one that I'm like, I don't have any memories of this guy, and I don't know why. So he's another the Heartthrobs are another one of those teams, and the other ones too. The 50s guys.
Deuce and Domino?
One was Snooki. Yeah, they occupy just a sliver of space in my brain. I can't remember a single thing they fucking did. I kind of remember what they look like a little bit, but I blocked a lot of that shit out.
Deuce and Domino were great. They ended the reign of London and Kendrick, who had like a really significant tag reign. After that, everything kind of evaporates in my head. Like
I remember them. It's just I don't know much of what they did, and I think the Heartthrobs were a lot like that. So when the Heartbreakers came out, I'm like, who are these guys? And I kind of looked them up. I'm like, oh, okay. But did they hang around in TNA very long?
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't know if you pulled up their Wikipedia, but their Wikipedia pretty much ends with this match. So no, they did not stick around.
Yeah, okay. I think I did pull up their Wikipedia, but I just wanted to confirm that they were a former WWE team. I was assuming they were when Hemi brought them out.
Yeah, and Jesus fucking Christ. So VKM, which are you familiar with the Voodoo Kin Mafia at all?
Yeah, I know them. I know what they did when Road Dogg and Billy went to TNA. It's a VKM moniker. I remember all that.
Yeah, and initially it was very heavy, like breaking the fourth wall, like
Mm.
calling out WWE, challenging Vince
Yeah.
McMahon to come to the Impact, 'cause like
Yeah.
silliness, and that eventually faded away. But we still have this team called VKM, so now we're transitioning to now Road Dogg and Billy Gunn feuding with Christy Hemme,
Yeah.
because why not? I could no other tag teams on the roster they could feud with, so let's.
Yeah.
And the whole like premise of this feud is that Christy Hemme thinks that women deserve a place in wrestling, which makes her the heel here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't like you said, women's wrestling wasn't in a good spot here in
No.
2007. But like, man, I can't imagine watching this and be like, yeah, no women on my TV. Get back in the kitchen, which is what Kip James, aka
Yeah,
Billy
like
Gunn,
all that
says.
whole exchange, that whole sexist exchange in the beginning. I want my women in the kitchen and stuff. And I'm like, this would be great for a heel in 1997 or 8 or 9 or something like that, when a lot of that stuff was going on, and
Yeah.
it was easy to draw heat from and stuff. It is just way past time for that. Even then, I think in 2007, I'm like, this has been done 100 times. Just being a douche, on a smaller scale than in WWE. I don't know how that's gonna get over any better. And it was just kind of, I think, almost like cheap and unoriginal, like kind of angle, and it was just there just to get VKM a spot on a pay-per-view, just to beat a
Yeah.
couple of schmucks. Yeah, I don't know. So Christy Hemme brings out the dudes.
Yeah, so it's the whole thing is Christy has a team to represent her. It's a mystery team.
Mystery team, yeah. Think it's gonna be somebody exciting.
Yeah, like Money Inc.
Yeah,
or
Money Inc., yeah.
the Bushwhackers, somebody, right?
Yeah.
But
Did they hype this up prior to the pay-per-view as like a big mystery team? I mean, were people buying this pay-per-view wondering if a team from the Outlaws past is gonna show up here? I mean, I don't know who there would be the Headbangers or something. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know who was like a free agent at this point, or like I wasn't like on the forums or anything at this point, so I don't know like what the scuttlebutt was.
yeah.
I mean, as far as like what they presented on TV, it was kind of just like, yeah, I'll have a team. It'll be a thing. It was like a 2-second thing backstage. Like, yeah, we're gonna have a mystery partner.
Yeah.
So on TV, it wasn't built up super heavy, but
That's
maybe
good.
online.
Yeah.
But yeah, ends up being the former Heartthrobs of WWE, now the Heartbreakers.
Heartbreakers.
But they're still Antonio and Romeo, which I believe is what their names were in WWE.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, WWE.
I didn't care to learn their names.
Antonio Thomas and Romeo Roselli. How dare you have some culture?
Nice. Thanks.
Because I mean, in WWE, they brought these guys in around the same time they brought the Dicks in. Familiar with the Dicks?
Yeah. Mm-hmm, I do.
Which were kind of like the same gimmick, just like dancing wets, oily abs guys. Like that's all it was, and that's all it pretty much was here. So I mean,
do you remember the Dupps, Bo Dupp and Jack Dupp?
No.
They're back.
Educate me.
They used to wrestle. Oh God, I don't know where they were from originally, but they used to work a lot of dark matches in WWE. And I would see them on like Raw and Raw shows and stuff, or house shows. They would wrestle some dark matches sometimes. I don't know if they ever got on television in WWE. I'd have to look that up. It's been 25 years now. I'd have to look it up. But I'd say around 98 is when I saw them wrestle in WWE in like dark matches. The Dupp brothers, D-U-P-P, Bo Dupp and Jack Dupp.
Jacked up and Bo Dupp.
Yeah, and I can't remember where they came from. They might have worked in ECW a little bit. I don't know. If anybody is watching this, in the comments, let us know what I'm thinking of here. But yeah, the Dupps from back in the day.
I mean, I'm picturing High Voltage from WCW. I don't know if that's the same people.
It's kind of like, I want to say they almost resembled more of maybe like the Briscoes or something, if I'm not mistaken. The Briscoe brothers, kind of like it's kind of a dirty looking tag team or something. I don't know what I'm trying to think of the words, but I gotta look this up myself when we're done here, just to try to remember what I'm, recollecting here.
We got to make sure we have the proper.
Yeah, but I swear the Dupp tag teams are a thing.
Man, well, hopefully I run into the Dupps sometime in one of these reviews, but maybe they make it a TNA appearance. Who knows? You never know. But yeah, this match did nothing for me. Like the Heartbreakers, there's a reason they didn't stick around. It wasn't a bad match. It was just very by the books, very generic, no heat to it. And I think a lot of that is the buildup. It's like, who are we supposed to cheer here? Because even 2007 Like there's a good amount of misogyny in the audience, I'm sure, but not to the extent where it's like, hell yeah, Billy Gunn, you tell that broad. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and when you got Russo there, he's just remembering what was selling tickets, when, wrestling was super hot, 8 or 9 years before, and, maybe he's trying to still do a lot of that stuff. Let's just get a girl out there and she'll have tits, she'll scream, and then men will objectify her or whatever. Maybe they think that's, was the way to go, but he just came off flat. And what was Lance Archer doing out there? He was out there too, right?
Yeah, so he, like in the build up to this, they were having like 6-man tags, just kind of building to this match. And Lance Archer or Lance Hoyt at this point, he was the third guy. So he's kind of friends with the VKM at this point, but that's pretty much all of his involvement here. He's kind of in a weird spot because he was pretty over at some point as a babyface. And then he became like in a tag team with Jimmy Rave, where they were like had Eric Guitar, Guitar Hero guitars, Rock and Rave Infection, I believe it was called. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It took him a while to catch fire, this Lance Archer. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But he makes an appearance. So yeah, at some point, like in the middle of this match, Christy Hemme makes her way into the ring, hits Kip with a low blow. But Kip, has a cup on, takes the cup out of his tights, puts it over her face, and gets that hose bag out of here.
Yeah, fans loved that.
But then the match just this was like in the middle of the match. Like that feels like if they would have ended it with it, like, okay, that's, the culmination of whatever you're trying to do. But they just went on to having just a boring match after that. So it was a very weirdly put together deal here, but it's over. Which is my favorite
VKM got I think Hoyt carried off Hemme or something, then they finished the match in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
She came back out and yelled at them. Did she yell at her Heartbreakers, right?
What was the tool she had? It was like a whip, not a whip, but
just some that little, I don't know what it's called, but that little whip.
Don't pretend like you don't know.
I don't know the actual name of it. I haven't ordered 4 of them before. I mean,
I'm subscribed to your OnlyFans. You know what that is.
I don't know the name. I was trying to remember once you described it. I'm like, oh yeah, the whip. We can call it a whip, I guess, or a smacker. I don't know what it's called.
A smacker, I think that's what it is.
It's a smacker.
She brings out. It's like a riding crop. Is that what commentary said? I don't know. Somebody knows. Listening.
It's Zelina's Chola, but with a selfie stick on it or something.
There we go. I think it's actually what it is.
Yeah.
But so she comes out and she said she's gonna punish the Heartbreakers for losing this match, and I guess that.
Oh, you promise?
Judging by the cut of these guys' jibs, I dare say they probably would have liked it, but yeah, they're gone forever. They never made another appearance, and maybe that was the punishment. Maybe she murdered them.
Yeah. Oh, that could be it. Yeah.
Which that TNA is not above doing that for an angle. So
yeah, there's worse ways to die.
It's canon in my head. It's just interesting.
Like Christy Hemme's basement. Yeah, I could definitely think of worse fates.
Yeah. But it's like they would introduce the Knockouts title like 5 or 6 months after this. So I don't know if that was like a reaction to this, like, oh, we really fucked up here. Let's actually respect women. Or
did they introduce the Knockouts at the same time? Because they're still using the NWA title here. So at some point they stopped paying the NWA and they used their own. Maybe that came in with the Knockouts at the same time they switched over to a TNA title.
I believe it was Slammiversary, which is like 2 or 3 months after this, where they get rid of the NWA stuff and introduce
so it's really soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so the Knockouts title was only the TNA Knockout. It was never the NWA, because I think it was a little bit after that they brought it in. So
that's right. Okay, cool. Yeah, interesting.
We're getting there. There. Well, Christian's backstage. Speaking of abducting, he still has that interviewer abducted, and he's brought her to the bowels of the impact zone, seemingly, where Abyss is in a cage. Why is he in a cage? Hell, I don't know. But he's in a cage. And Christian's basically trying to recruit Abyss to help him in his match later, but is unable. He's going to be unable to, which we'll talk about later. But but he gives Abyss a signed photograph of himself, and that's all Abyss needed, apparently, because he gave him a fist bump. He's like, "All righty, Christian, I'm in."
Yeah, he came out of his speed rack or his baking tray or whatever the heck he was inside of there. That thing, it just looks like a thing for hotel pans in my restaurant. He was like
slow roasted
with a door on it. Yeah, it was slow roast Abyss. Yeah, but I guess he was into it after that. Fist bump and everything. Sealed the deal.
Did you get any like 2003 Kane vibes from this version of Abyss? Like how he's like unhinged and
yeah, Yeah, I kind of
chained
thought
up.
I always kind of viewed I liked Abyss, and I didn't mind. I felt like he was a combo of Mankind and Kane in a
Yeah,
lot
for
of ways.
sure.
He had attributes of both, but I didn't even care if it was, it was I look at him the same way I look at Demolition in the WWE. Yeah, they kind of borrowed a little bit from LOD and whatnot, but they were their
Mhm.
own thing, and they got over on their own. And I felt like Abyss was like that too. That some of that unhinged stuff, even in the case, he's rocking back and forth like Mankind, and then they were doing, the father thing with James Mitchell. There was a couple
Mhm.
father reveals or something in there too, I think, right, with Abyss throughout his career and stuff. So I had a lot of Kane Paul Bearer stuff,
Yeah, very
vibes to it.
very reminiscent. Yeah, but to your
Mhm.
point, everybody steals from everybody in wrestling.
Yeah.
So and Abyss, translates it well in the ring,
He
which
was great. Yeah, that's why his is tolerable, because he's, people borrow from everybody, and he made his own way, and he wasn't a direct rip off of anybody, and he
right.
made his own. He made his own career. So I thought Abyss was great.
Well, we got a lot more Abyss talk later, but before we get to that, we got the X Division title on the line in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So almost a normal match here.
Almost so close.
We got the champion Chris Sabin taking on Jerry Lynn. Oh, it was a pretty good match. Chris Sabin playing the shithead heel, Jerry Lynn. The one thing that I really noted about this match is how much they're playing up. Like, oh, Jerry Lynn at his age can still go.
Yeah,
Do you
was
know
he
how old he is
39?
at this? He was 43 here.
43.
which,
Okay. Jesus.
I mean, I think that's about as old as Chris Sabin is now.
Damian Priest is 44.
Yeah,
He's world champion right now. So yeah,
Tongaloa, who just debuted, are in their 40s. I mean,
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley's like 67 or some shit. Like,
yeah,
it's ages. It was
Yeah.
interesting to see how much age was a factor here
Mhm.
compared to what it is now, which is like pretty much non-factor because everybody's in their 40s seemingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you like this match?
I did. Yeah, I actually did like this one. Was fun because I like both of the guys. I like Sabin. I like Jerry Lynn. And 2 out of 3 falls match and the X Division I thought was exciting in TNA. So this one I knew before, like as the
Mhm.
match as they were making their entrances, I'm like, oh, this one will be good. And
Right.
it was.
Yeah, it was always a safe bet that the X Division title match would be at least good, and this one was really good. So it was 2 out of 3 falls. I mean, not much build up here. Sabin's like the cocky champion. Jerry Lynn thinks he should have respect. That's essentially what it is. Lynn gets the first fall with a tornado DDT for the pin, and then busts out a crossbody into the crowd, which looked pretty gnarly because he like smacked against the wall that was in the crowd. The audio of that was very aesthetically pleasing. Sabin hits a power bomb, folds him up with his feet on the ropes, and gets the cheeky pin.
Yeah.
Evening it up at 1-1. And ultimately, Sabin gets the win due to interference from a strange man in a Sting mask.
Yeah, it was so hard to tell who this was. Man, I mean, it could be anybody. Really, I mean, everybody has that body type.
What is it about Christopher Daniels that is so like, it's clearly Christopher Daniels? Is it just his body type?
I think so. And the bald head didn't help, but just those two, he's a very just distinguishable silhouette. Exactly who that is. I just thought it was funny. I'm like, you could have just came out there with no mask and just stood there, but it served the same purpose, but it was funny seeing him come out there. He looked good back then, 2007, all tanned and young.
Ooh, new beard he has. He's sporting.
Yeah.
Stud. So because Daniels had been gone for a while, and this is essentially like kind of a gimmick shift, repackaging, but not super different from what he was doing before. He just has like a little bit of face paint and a beard.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only difference.
Yeah.
And this distracts Lynn, and Sabin's able to hit the cradle shock for that final fall. So he retains the title. Just a solid match. I mean, my note here was that Sabin is such a good shithead, which you never really think of Chris Sabin as a good heel because like Motor City Machine Guns, I think was what everybody associates him now with. But I thought he came off like his character work. I thought was very good here. I thought. Yeah,
he did. He had some fun backstage stuff too that I remember seeing occasionally here and there that I always liked from him. There's one where he's like an old man or something like that. He's Sonny Boy or whatever. I don't know what it was.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it perfectly, I think.
Yeah, there's the clips I come across on Twitter sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. So yeah, I've always liked him. I thought that was a good match. And then Daniels like attacked them both after the match, but I'm not sure why he attacked both guys, but he attacked Saban and then Jerry Lynn. So
I mean, he's just you can't see what's going on in that head behind his dead eyes, I think is the gimmick.
That's true. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I think it's just we'll throw some face paint on you and we'll yeah, like you said, think of a gimmick as we go along. Yeah. But man, so I'll tell you this. This is the only pay-per-view from TNA that I've ever purchased. And the reason is this next match. Elevation X.
Yeah.
Rhino versus AJ Styles. As a kid, I thought, hey, somebody might die in this match. Better watch it.
Boy, that video package with the watermelon and the TV falling off the thing. Like, what a way to sell it. They got that old school box TV and threw it off there.
It got me, man. It got me. Because so for anyone unfamiliar, Elevation X, essentially a scaffold match. But there's a giant X above the ring. It's like a 20-inch platform that you can walk across, or it's 20 inches wide, goes all the way across the ring, and you win by throwing your opponent off, which is the like I said, it's a scaffold match. I mean, I don't know how tall it was. They said 2 stories, but
yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that high up. I mean, it was high up there, but no higher than the top rung of a ladder in a ladder match. I wouldn't like one of those big ladders anyway. Yeah, I'd probably maybe say 10 feet, I guess, maybe, but I don't even know. It's got to be more than that, maybe 12. Yeah, it wasn't a short landing at all, but and I did like the way it was crossed in the middle, and they gave you so little room to work up there. And one guy was big. I expect AJ to be fine up there, but I was surprised that, it was him and Rhino. I'd be shitting myself if I was up there, if I was Rhino.
Dude. Yeah, I mean, because, however tall it was a very menacing, like, spectacle, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just get thrown off of that, I'm sure it's going to hurt. I mean, the way they did it, I'm sure mitigated whatever, but
yeah, or if you accidentally fall off of it, that's where you Jim Cornette your knees or something like that, and do some damage to yourself. So yeah, I was just falling off of it would be my main concern, because what if Rhino falls off? He's not the scheduled winner. So I guess he just audible that one and say, just try not to screw up, I guess. But
yeah,
I did like seeing him up there, and I thought it was a cool visual.
It looked cool, and yeah, I think it's just the tension, like throughout the entire thing, because I mean they were able to create a 15-minute match, just kind of tightroping up there.
Yeah, they got creative. The way AJ went underneath and hid in the thing like that, and then Rhino's up there. Where is he?
Because it's like metal trusses underneath the platform, so you could, like you said, slide under there.
Got under there.
It was very creative.
Yeah, I thought that was a creative spot. And there was the one spot where Rhino was going for the gore or something. Like, oh my God, what is going to happen? And he just gored him on top of the plat. But I thought for sure they were I was looking for a crash pad. I'm like, oh, something's going to happen. But they kept it up there and took a few bumps on there, and some drop kicks and some random things that took place on top of that I thought was interesting. I actually liked this match. I didn't mind it.
I thought it was great. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, you could see that they were panning to some of the fans who were like praying, like very scared fans.
Yeah.
So it did its job, I guess. Even watching it, because like I know nobody like fucking got seriously hurt from this, but even watching this, it's like, oh shit, like is Rhino almost gonna fall?
Yeah, I went to Cirque du Soleil once, and I was so nervous and my palms were sweating. I'm like, never again am I going to something like that. I don't want to watch people up there. So I guess that was kind of the same effect here. It's like fans watching wrestlers like, don't die up there. But this was a lot safer than Cirque du Soleil. I was at SummerSlam 2000 when Shane did the thing. I was
really
50 yards away from that, and it was pretty awesome. Probably less than that, 50 feet maybe, but it was a pretty wild bump to see then, from that high up. So as long as they landed in the ring, aside from an accidental broken ankle or knee or arm, I thought they were going to at least live.
Yeah, hopefully they don't end up like that watermelon or that box.
I know that poor watermelon. Yeah, don't fall on the floor. That was so great.
Yeah. So, and yeah, you brought up how Rhino was kind of, I mean, he's obviously very out of his element here. He's a large gentleman, a wide gentleman at least.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the story they were telling here, is that AJ, like they were kind of building this up like this was AJ's idea. Like this is his match. Like he's obviously the athletic one. He can, do cartwheels up there. Like he's very coordinated, so he's not going to fall. And then Rhino's this big bowling ball. You're going to throw him up there, and he's Rhino. Even like in the promo leading up to this, he's like, normally I'm very intense, and I'm like, yeah, gore, 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 but not tonight. So he's like petrified, and you can see that he's like shaking when he gets up. He can barely climb. He's like slipping on the post, trying to climb up there.
I couldn't do it. And AJ was going to be the only guy that was going to be able to do the acrobatic stuff, hanging from it, saving himself from it, climbing underneath. So he was going to be up to him to do all that.
Yeah. There's one point where Rhino like goes for a punch, but then AJ ducks. So Rhino's like, whoa, and he like almost falls. So stuff like that, little false finishes they did, I thought were great.
I like that.
And then you brought up AJ hiding within the trusts underneath the platform, and then Rhino's like pointing to the fans, like, "Oh, help me out here!" Oh, that was a fun little thing they did.
Yeah.
Rhino grabs him, pulls AJ out, pulls him on top of the platform, but AJ fights back, goes for the Styles Clash. It was like, no shot, he hits this on top of this. Ends up getting countered. And then AJ pulls out some powder.
Yeah.
Some white powder. I don't know. Is this the Mr. Fuji? Is it salt? Yeah. Is it something else? I don't know.
Yeah, they call it salt. I think it's all-purpose flour.
And AJ, he dumps the powder in his hand. And he's like, "Ha ha ha! I'm going to put this in his face." And then he turns around, gets it smacked up. Powder goes in AJ's eyes, and then Rhino hits the gore on top of the platform.
Top of the platform was crazy. I thought they were going off.
I did too. But he hits the gore, and then AJ then like slides off, hangs from the truss, and then gets his fingers kicked, ends up letting go Mustafa style. Or Mustafa, what's Lion King? Not Mustafa. Is it Mustafa?
I don't.
Big Lion King guy?
I hate to admit this on your channel. I've never seen the Lion King. I get a lot of shit. I get a lot of shit, like the original cartoon, like from the 90s or whatever it was. Like I get a lot of crap for that.
Apparently I haven't seen it enough, so I'm right there with you.
Okay.
But AJ goes tumbling down and takes a pretty nice bump. I mean, just right on his back, made a loud noise, which is all you can ask for, I guess.
Yeah, the fact that he came down on his back, I'm wondering, was that powder like, how the gymnasts use to grip the bars? Was that the purpose of it? Is so he could get a good firm grip so he could torque himself back to land flat? I was actually had that thought because I'm like, he did land pretty perfectly there. I wonder if that was just to keep his hands dry so he could position himself on the bump. Maybe I could be way off.
That's funny.
Yeah.
He did have gloves, which he had never worn before this. I think this is the debut of his gloves.
Oh, I didn't think about the gloves. Yeah, then it probably wouldn't have mattered.
But maybe, I don't know, maybe the gloves weren't enough. Maybe you need.
But I had thought about the powder. It just reminded me how the gymnasts powder up their, rosin up their hands before they get on the start twirling on the thing. So I thought maybe it had the same effect, but that was the point. Probably not.
If it's gloves and powder, does that like have it's like when you wear two condoms? It like
I know. I worry that wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be worried. I would worry that wouldn't work unless he tested it out earlier. But even with the way he landed, they still like stretchered him out and everything. So they were selling the height of the fall, even though he landed probably as perfectly as you could ask for.
Right.
Finish like that.
Yeah, to your point, he didn't Jim Cornette himself.
Yeah,
so he learned from that.
Yeah,
Jim Cornette's working. He's the GM of TNA, so I'm sure you can talk to him about it.
Yeah,
don't do that. But it was a very interesting how they told the story in such tight constraints. The finish I thought was pretty satisfying. Yeah, so big thumbs up from me for this one.
I like this one too. This one was fine. No issue with it.
Do you have any issues with the next match?
Yeah. The finish was weak as hell, but Angle and Style, I was enjoying the promos prior to the match, and then just but in the ring, I guess it just wasn't. I was never a huge Steiner fan, or at least Big Papa Pump Steiner. I mean, you give me Steiner Brothers Steiner and a Kurt Angle in a match, holy crap, sign me up. But I'm not sure about chain helmet guy with the weird peaks and the limited mobility and all of that stuff. So when it comes to like, an amateur type of wrestler, Angle was going to wrestle circles around this fool, but it was still fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was thinking watching this too, to your point, is this in another timeline, this would have been awesome. If this was like 94 Steiner versus like 2003 Kurt Angle, like that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But 2007 is not think we're about done with Steiner at this point, even though he goes on, he sticks with TNA for a while, but
yeah, he does.
and I just have a lot of questions about Scott Steiner. So first of all, this dangly chain from his beard.
Oh yeah.
Thoughts?
Oh man, I don't have any other than I'm not going to do that. I'll write that down on list shit I'll never do list. Yeah,
just so you remember.
Yeah, just so I remember not to do that. But yeah, I kind of liked when he would get a little bit outlandish. But I did the crazier the better with him. He's so batshit nuts anyway.
Yeah.
I would expect nothing less for him to start dangling shit off his head at some point. But he was more just crazy gimmick than anything he could do in the ring to me. So the Steiner math and the promos and just his demeanor was still Scott Steiner. And no matter where he went, he was able to take that siren with him. So he always has that, distinguishable, just entrance and everything that he does. I, somewhat appreciated because I thought he was hilarious at times, but overall, not a Steiner fan.
Yeah.
Papa Pump fan, I should say.
Especially this era. I mean, like you said, the mobility is not there. I mean, back in 2002 when he was fighting Triple H, it wasn't there. So it's like,
it was gone then. God, they stunk up the place in that Rumble match or whatever it was.
Yeah, he kept his pants on here at least. So that's
good.
something.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe towards the end it kind of slipped down a little bit. But so Steiner, so the whole feud is based on, so Kurt Angle recently-ish, it's been a few months, but he signed with TNA. And Steiner's pissed because his contract negotiations got frozen due to this or whatever the hell. So it basically cost him money. So Scott's pissed. And then Steiner's talking about like, you wonder why your wife came back from Macy's with a smile on her face? Well, it wasn't because of the sales, because it's a lotght of that in this build.
Yeah.
Which it's Steiner, it's silly, it's very entertaining. So it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But Scott comes out with like two ladies on his arm, which posed a question in my head. Do you consider Scott Steiner like a heartthrob?
No, I mean, no.
Like a lady's because look at this guy. He's veiny. He's wet. He's red.
Yeah. I'm sure there are some women out there, fresh out of prison that think he's great. But I think, and there's hot stuff, but I would think maybe a normal one might find it a little gross.
You don't think the ladies want to kiss his biceps like these ladies do?
No, I'm scared of it. I wouldn't want to be within like 5 yards of it because the way it sticks up. I'm like, that's not, your muscles don't do that. So
no,
what you got in you?
Yeah, it's all natural, man. Just a lot of chicken breast and creatine.
Yeah, I'm like, I would want to touch it like, I don't know, just like with a stick and like just see if it's squishy or not or whatever. I would not want to.
You wouldn't if Scott Steiner was there and he was like, "Hey, touch this bicep," you wouldn't touch it?
I don't know. I'd think about it.
Would you kiss it?
Yeah, no, I'd have to think about touching it. So definitely not kissing it.
Is there a price?
Yes,
everyone's got a
absolutely.
price.
Yeah, absolutely, totally. There's
a wise
a price.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, there's a price to pay watching this match. I'll tell you what, because it was, I don't know. Steiner was gassed. It was definitely. I mean, you got 2007 Kurt Angle. He could still go.
Oh yeah.
But Scott, I mean, they're building this up like, it's two amateur wrestlers wrestling each other, but Scott Steiner hadn't done any amateur wrestling since fucking the 80s, since Iron Sheik was champion. So, but it was whatever. So in the build up to this, Scott hit Kurt with a headbutt with his chainmail on, which busted Kurt open. So there was some fun build up to this match, and they call back to that with Kurt headbutting Scott, busting him open. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the finish here?
I thought it was terrible. It looked to me like Steiner didn't want to take that bump. It was like, he went for the top rope belly to belly, and then Angle, I think, countered into a sunset, and then he like went down and kind of grabbed the ropes and then fell. And then that was the finish. And I was surprised. I thought they were going to get a kick out there. I'm like, oh, we're done.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, is this a botch? Is it like, to your point, maybe just wanted to soften the blow of the bump because it was.
I literally think it was Steiner saying, "Nope, not taking that bump. I'm just going to go down nice and easy." I feel like,
because it looked like it might have been like a power bomb, but it was just a roll up. To your point,
so. It was like it looked like I think it was supposed to be maybe like a sunset flip power bomb, and then he lands on him, but he just more of like a sunset flip from the top, just nice little soft roll up that was really easy on Steiner, which I can understand. I mean, he's had back problems and all that. I wouldn't want to be smashing myself either, but you are in the ring with a Hall of Famer and it's pay-per-view. So if you're going to give a little extra bump one night, I think pay-per-view would be the place to do it. So,
You would
but
think.
it's not a house live event in front of 50 people. It's not an indie event, so then I can understand maybe walking through the match a little bit, but just that finish was dead. I mean, I think Steiner still was doing wrestling at the top level he was capable of in 2007. It's just that finish was weak.
Yeah.
I think, could have put more into it.
I mean, the rest of the match, it was kind of what you would expect from Scott Steiner in 2007. Like, honestly, most of it wasn't terrible, but the finish was,
yeah.
There was even, I don't know if you caught this, there was a "that was weak" chant as he was going up the ramp. So the crowd even did.
Wow. I did hear the "we're on steroids" chant.
Yeah, well, that's that's a rite of
passage, which is unfair because Angle was on painkillers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they need to get the chant right. Or they're
silly crowd.
Yeah, silly crowd.
Give them a script or something. I don't know. Well, so Kurt comes out the winner there, and that brings us to the last rights match: Sting versus Abyss.
I've never loved and hated a match equally more in life.
That's
than this
honestly
one.
A very common theme with these, because this feud's been going on for a while. They've had, shark cage, whatever the fuck matches. They've had street fights. And every person I have on here talking about these matches, they're like, I kind of liked it, even though it was stupid. But
yeah,
it's, I don't know. So it's a casket match. Well, no, it's not a casket match. It's a deathbed match.
Deathbed, yeah. Okay, yeah, deathbed match.
It's not a casket. It's a deathbed. So the build up here, it's a lot to get into. We could do a whole episode on it. Basically, Abyss shot his dad, put him in a coma. Sting found this out, and that's pretty much it. But more or less. But essentially, Sting sees the humanity in Abyss because Abyss had been managed by James Mitchell, and Sting was like, Mitchell's walking you like a puppet, like you're your own man with your own thoughts. And Sting unveiled the secret to the audience that Abyss had shot his dad, but in thinking that this would set Abyss free, but it only set him off, which, now he's just trying to destroy everybody. So now we have this match, because I guess now in Sting's mind, the only way to stop this rampage of Abyss is to make him pass away and ascend him to the heavens, which is what this match is. It's how you win this match, is you put the guy in the casket and then make it ascend to the heavens, but you have to make it descend first.
Yeah, it's got to be lowered every time. So they spent so much time building shit for this pay-per-view. They had the AJ Styles thing, and now this, and like, man, they're putting a lot of stuff together. But normally, like, a match like this would just, the sight of it would make you mad. But I'm like, nope, this is why I love wrestling. It's because it's so stupid, and that's why I love it. The dumber, the better. I'm like, this thing's got to be lowered, and it's their own kind of take on a casket match. The props, the little candle holders on the ring,
the candelabras,
those, and the tombstones and all this stuff. My favorite was Abyss selling how heavy it was, and then Sting just picks it right up. That was my favorite part. I'm like, way to go! Like, I was admiring Abyss's ability to like simulate, heaviness and weight, and the way he lifts that thing up and he's carrying around the ring, and then the way Sting just, like it was nothing, like it was made out of foam, which it was, just picks it up, was my favorite part of the whole thing. Like,
the fact that we both saw that and knew that he was bullshitting with how heavy it was, maybe, I don't know, but I guess you got to.
You both got to do it though, not just one guy.
Well, Sting has superhuman powers. You remember, was it after he did this to his chest? Because that makes him stronger.
Yeah, so I think he lifted it right up.
We'll have to review the tape, but yeah. So I don't know, man. There's just, like you said, the candelabras on the corner posts, the gravestones. It's all, and like I said, you have to make the casket is on this like platform they have to call for so that it comes down to the ring. You have to put the guy in the casket, close the door, and then make it rise up to the top. And I'm watching all this, how dramatic, how like dark and mysterious this is, but the crowd is like not having it. Like, if they're not silent, they're chanting "Fire Russo." Which it was loud that they were chanting that.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved that they were chanting that. I thought it was funny. That thing with the casket and the platform takes up 2/3 of the ring. So when it's lowered there, now they have no room to work in there at all. And so it just turned into just blood and violence. There was really no way where to have a real match after that thing. I love the Fire Russo chants though. I was laughing at that.
Right. And especially like given what we've seen on we've had a ghetto brawl. We've had a double bull rope match. We've had a crossface chicken wing match. A 2 out of 3 falls. We've had an Elevation X. Like, there's just a lot of gimmicks, a lot of run-ins, a lot of tomfoolery, and the crowd's probably just fed up with it. But a lot of blood in this match, though. A lot of blood.
I couldn't believe Sting's looked rough.
He took the candle to the face and was just gushing.
Yeah, I mean, he was just cut. Oh my god, it was just really awful looking. So I was like, damn, that's a lot of blood for a silly ass match.
Yeah, that's pretty much the best way to it's like a lot of brutality for a lot of silliness is what this was. The final stretch in this match, I think Abyss. So Sting puts the tombstone over Abyss's head, who's sitting in the corner, smacks the bat against the tombstone right into the face of Abyss.
Yeah.
And then Abyss like constructs like he has like 2 set up chairs, puts a tombstone on top of it to make like a tombstone table.
Yeah.
Which I guess he had designs of like maybe choke slamming Sting through the tombstone, but ends up getting knocked through it himself.
Yeah.
And there's one thing has always bugged me about a casket match. So like you throw the guy in the thing and you gotta shut the door. But then they struggle. Like, Sting got thrown into it. Abyss tries to shut the door, Sting's struggling. What happens if Abyss just like overpowers him and shuts the door? Well, Sting's like not unconscious in the casket, so does he have to just stay in the casket as per the rules? I don't know. Is it locked?
I don't think it's locked. I mean, they were taking bumps on this thing. I wasn't worried they were going to be able to close the door at all. But yeah, when if you're not unconscious in there, you think you just pop right out of it. You shouldn't have to stay in there.
Is it in the contract of the match? Like, hey, if this door closes, no popping out of it. No funny business.
Not for me. I'm claustrophobic. I'm like, if you're having me lose this match, I'm getting out as soon as it's over. You're not locking me. You're not nailing it shut or whatever. Undertaker's not bringing his mallet out and driving iron bolts into this thing. No way. I'm getting the F out of this thing. I don't know the rules. I was worried he was going to be able to get Abyss in it.
Apparently he fits in it because somehow, because Abyss chokeslammed Sting on top of it, like caved in the door of the casket, but it was able to still function kind of because Sting eventually, after he sends Abyss through the tombstone, Sting throws Abyss into the casket, shuts the door.
He's just like kind of working him in there, like shoving him and pushing him and trying to.
I mean, it's a big bastard. You got to.
Yeah, you got him in though.
Got him in, put him in the casket, pointed up to the sky. Casket rises. My question is, like, when Abyss gets up there, like, does he stay in there for the rest of the show? Does he get out and walk on the catwalk out? Like, how does that work?
I'm curious. Yeah, how did they get him out of? They raised it up because when they were raising up, Sting was on there too. He kind of like jumped off at the last minute, probably like, I'm not going up there.
Right.
I'm curious if when they went to break or advertisement or commercial on the pay-per-view, if they lowered that and got him out of there or not. Wish we could ask some fans who were in attendance.
We'll have to. I mean, there's only a few
find
of them.
One of the 900 in the world that were there, and probably 20% or not 20, probably 5% are passed away. So
hopefully.
There's 800.
Yeah, they're with Abyss in the sky.
Yeah.
Well, before the main event, we got a little weird cameo appearance from the Great Muta.
Great Muta, yeah. I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, look at there, Great Muta.
The fuck is he doing here? I can't imagine.
I have no idea.
Flew into Orlando for a weird backstage segment with Christian.
Yeah, I don't know what the story there was.
And have him in a match, maybe sub him out for the Heartbreakers and just have Great Muta versus VKM.
Yeah, Jesus, could you imagine that? I'd watch that.
Yeah, couldn't have been worse. So, but Christian, so Abyss has passed away, so he can't protect him. Scott Steiner lost. Assumingly, he just left the building. Tom goes in Japan. AJ, who was another one of his allies, got carried out on a stretcher. So he's out of allies, Christian is.
Got nobody.
But does he have Great Muta? That's the question. These guys have never met before, but maybe he'll help him in his main event match.
Yeah. Offers him a chance to be famous again, right? If you want to be famous again, what a nice guy that Christian is, helping out in a great mood, falling on tough times, delivering takeout.
Dude, Christian rules, man. Christian's to this day is such a great heel.
Yeah.
Because him and Muda, there's a translator too in the middle. Because Christian's trying to recruit Muda to help him, and Christian's like, "Hey, we're both NWA champions. I mean, one of us still is, but you used to be." So just like more backhanded, comments towards Muda. But Muda is not interested, as per his green mist on the lockers, which seemed very aggressive for no reason, but that's his way of saying no, I guess.
Yeah. And then that was it. Okay. Hi, great Muda.
Yeah. Here's your paycheck.
Yeah, he could have come out to the ring and done that.
Yeah, he might as well have. But that brings us to the main events. The NWA World Title is on the line. Christian Cage is defending against Samoa Joe,
who at this point had not won the title yet, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I thought this match was awesome. What'd you think about it?
Heck yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I was looking forward to the main event. Like when you proposed this show, and I'm like kind of looking at the card. I'm like, okay, well that one's gonna be good. That one's gonna be good. And Christian and Joe, who are both still wrestling at high championship levels right now in AEW, is awesome. Joe's former champ. Christian's getting a title shot at the next show. So I think they're arguably just as fun now. But here is when you got a few years less on their careers, and they're a little younger. Was fun to watch this.
Yeah, it was. To your point. So Samoa Joe had not won the world title yet. So we're still he's just recently graduated from like the X division, where he dominated for like a year. So now he's venturing into these main event matches. Yeah. And Christian, kind of newly heel. He's been heel for a few months now, but he's really starting to sink into his reign here. And it was just what I'll say about this match is it felt like there was no fat to it. Like there were no lulls, and there were like very limited shenanigans for a main event TNA match. Because like I said, there's no run-ins. There were no there were like low blows or whatever. There might have been a chair shot or two with some ref bumps, but it was a relatively clean match that felt like it just flowed so well from start to finish. Like I felt like I was engaged with it the entire time. The counter wrestling, because Christian's such a schmarmy, slimy heel at this point, but now we're getting to see him actually wrestle against Samoa Joe, who's been dominant at this point. So I don't know, anything in particular catch your eye about this one?
Yeah. No, I liked it. I was the whole time watching it too, is because I'm not sure if this was a good move or a bad move. You said that, we didn't have, it was a relatively clean match, no interference, but Christian spent the whole show looking for it. So the fact that the whole show they're building up that Christian's going to do whatever he can, and then he winds up having nothing. I do like that little twist, but I wonder if some fans were watching expecting to see, run-ins and stuff, and then they did not. But they explained away all the other ones. Steiner didn't really want much to do with him. Abyss is in heaven. And, and his friend is in Japan and stuff. So he didn't really have a lot, but I thought the way he was going around to everybody in the locker room, basically, that he would find some ally to come out. But I didn't mind that there was nobody, because Joe versus Christian straight up in a match is fine with me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed
it. Just a lot of fun, like counters. It was very back and forth. Christian kind of had control at one point, but then Joe locked in the muscle buster from the middle of the ring, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Deadlifting him up there.
Yeah,
but Christian fights out of it, hits his reverse DDT. There's a lot of Christian coming from the second rope to try to hit moves, but then Joe will hit a drop kick in midair. So there's a lot of back and forth counters like that throughout this entire thing. Joe even brings out a spear through the middle rope off the apron, which looked pretty brutal. He landed right on his fucking head.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, Christian's had enough. He begins to leave, but then the X division comes out for whatever reason. It's like, hey, no. It's like Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and somebody else. I think Senshi were out there. It's like, nah, you ain't leaving.
Yeah, got to do it on your own.
And so they take Christian, they throw him back in the ring. Joe hits the island driver, but the ref is out, sending the other guys backstage. So he's out of position. So it takes him a while to get back in the ring. So it's only a 2 counts. But then a little bit of shenanigans start. So Christian ends up pulling the ref in front of him as Samoa Joe's going for a drop kick, and Joe kicks the ref in the face. But then Joe's able to hit the muscle buster on Christian, but the ref is only coming 2, so we get the old Earl Hebner slow 2 count.
Yeah.
But it's just very dramatic. Like the crowd was super into it. Like there were points where you really thought Joe might win this.
Yeah.
But the finish, I do like the finish though, because after all, he is a heel. He is a heel, even though there's no run-ins. Joe has the choke in. Christian hits a low blow with his feet. There's so much that happens here. So Joe locks in the choke again, I think, at some point, right?
Yeah.
And then Christian does the old was it Bret Hart, Roddy Piper finish where he rolls back,
kicks back and rolls on him, but his feet went all the way over, right on the ropes, right? Yeah.
Which was very smooth because not only is it like kind of an out of nowhere leverage pin, but he also has his feet on the ropes.
Yeah.
And the ref was counting underneath of them, which like, where does the ref think he is? I don't know.
Yeah.
You can maybe poke holes in it, but I thought it was a very smooth finish. Christian comes out looking like more of a dickhead, but also looked good within the match. And Joe's still are invested in Joe getting that title at some point. So I thought it was a great way to end the show.
Yeah. I like when the heels can kind of steal one like that without going too overboard, without needing a chair or too much help, just a little foot on the ropes or a little roll up or something like that. Felt like in Kurt Angle's first run in WWE, he was winning some matches like that, just always escaping, somehow. And even when he's seemingly overmatched and whatnot, he was escaping with these wins, holding on to the title. And Christian made a great NWA champion back then. I enjoyed his run there. So yeah, I liked the match. I liked that Christian retained, and I liked that Joe was starting to get on the map in the main events.
Yeah, man. No, up until recently, I've always pointed to this as Christian's best run in wrestling. And what he's doing today is kind of similar to this. I mean, the heel with a faction behind him, that's where he thrives, I think. So he's doing great stuff here in 07 at this point, and Joe's still hot. So yeah. So that's how we close the show.
Destination X. I'm glad I got another TNA pay-per-view review under my belt.
Glad you got to experience the chicken wing matches and people falling from scaffolds, and it's a very TNA show.
I wonder if it was from the same year. I think it is. It's Unbreakable. It's like a triple threat main event that's like everybody talks about. Is it Joe and AJ and Daniels?
Yep, that's from 05. That's the end of 05.
Oh, 05. Okay, I did review that on my channel. I was thinking it might have been the same year. So that was 05. Wow. Oh yeah, because that was probably for the X division, not for the NWA, right? Okay.
Correct.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I have done a TNA show here and there, but this one was all over the place. Wild.
Yeah, it's very hit or miss. It's very because like that show, Unbreakable, is a great show. You had some good stuff on that show. This show honestly was like, even though it was very weird, it was probably better than most shows I've covered recently from TNA from 06, beginning of 07. So it was. I mean, even like a lot of the silliness was entertaining from that kind of perspective. And you had this main event that was great. You have some good stuff in between. So
yeah, I do have an appreciation for, I don't take things too seriously. So I like it when matches get crazy. I like when AEW just goes a little bit too nuts. You know, I'm like, that's kind of crazy, but that's also kind of why I like it. And so a lot of this was, very, very pro wrestling, just crazy situations, crazy matches. And some of it's overbooked and overthought, but sometimes that's where the fun can be. So I thought it was a fun pay-per-view to watch.
Yeah, TNA, because
fight its issues.
Like all the timelines I cover, TNA is the one where it's like, okay, I can just kind of turn my brain off and just kind of you don't need to think too much about it. Just absorb it.
I know. Yeah, that was what I was worried about too. A lot of these stories, I'm like, I don't know a lot of the backstories of these matches, but they gave me a video package and explained to me in basic terms, so I was able to follow along just fine.
But just like a commentary too, because commentary I think did a pretty good job in kind of laying out the stories.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was hard for me to get used to those two, Don West especially, but I do like that they had their own kind of what's it called? Like kind of personality, their own commentary, personality or image in the company. Like you knew when you heard those voices, you knew you were watching TNA.
Yeah, like their energy is unmatched in my opinion. Like you really felt like when you were listening to them, it's like TNA was like their lives. Like they only this is like the world that they existed at all times, and they were all in it. That was their identity, and I thought it was great. So yeah, I liked commentary in TNA for the most part, even though West could be a little much. I like he's a powder keg, that's for sure. And that commentary team had some good mic work. But speaking of which, appreciate you, Greg, once again for coming on the show, talking some wrestling. Where can everybody find you, listen to your beautiful voice, and touch your beautiful face?
No, yeah, you can find me on YouTube. That's the best place. GoodMicWork commentaries. Just plug it right in there to your search bar. I'm also on social media on the X, but mostly YouTube. My audio, most of my podcasts are also available on the podcast sites and whatnot. But just find me over there on YouTube. That'll link you to everything else you need in terms of following me. And definitely appreciate you having me on, Kyle.
Yeah, maybe I'll make my way over to Vegas. WrestleMania 41.
Yeah, try to make the trip if you can. You got a whole year to plan for it. So
I guess
figure it out. Have you been to Vegas for a show ever, for a wrestling show or in general?
I went for a wedding a few years ago, which happened to coincide with when SmackDown was there for the draft a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
So it was a T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah, T-Mobile.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Because Vegas is a great place for wrestling because you don't have to, it's all right there. Remember in LA, everything was, you want to go to WrestleCon, that's downtown, and SoFi's and Inglewood and all this. With Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, T-Mobile, all the hotels are just right there. Just stay on the strip, park your car.
Really?
You never have to, you just, when I drive there, I'm going to park my car and I'm not going to get out and get back in it again. I'll just be walking everywhere I go. So everything is mostly centrally located. Hanging out with people and meeting up and things like that are way easier than it was in LA because there's just so much to do around both stuff. So SmackDown and Raw, I'm sure is going to be at the T-Mobile, and that's right across the street from Allegiant, and they're both surrounded by hotels. It's a great place. It's the best town to watch wrestling in, 100%, because it's all just right there and accessible, and you don't have to do anything. So as long as you're staying on the strip and staying nearby Allegiant Stadium, you're gold. So
is it close enough to Cirque du Soleil?
I think, depending on where they're showing that, probably all that's walkable for the most part. And I haven't even seen the Sphere yet, so I'm ready to see that. So
are they going to have a wrestling show in the Sphere? Are they going to do like Raw, SmackDown?
I hope so. That would be so crazy. I'm not sure. Hall of Fame or something might be fun, but
yeah,
it feels like they got to do something in there. So
yeah.
Think about it. Try to make the trip out.
Yeah, maybe I'll. Did I tell you about me running into Bret Hart in LA WrestleMania?
No.
So I need you to tell me if I made the right call or not. So we were at a restaurant, me and my wife. I forget what it was called. It was like a rooftop bar kind of thing. But we just happened to walk by Bret Hart, who was at the bar with, I think, his wife.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether or not to say hi because it's like, oh, he thinks he got away from all the wrestling fans. Like, I want to be the one guy. And you hear stories about Bret Hart. Like, am I going to be his new Goldberg? And I didn't want to cut into his conversation. So I don't know. I mean, you met him though, right? That weekend at the convention.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I met him at the convention. So I stood in line. I always just judge the vibe. Like if I feel like they're approachable or like, no, they're too deep in conversation or something like that. Like we were hanging out across from Staples the night of the Hall of Fame, and like Adam Pearce was in there and hanging out at the bar, and I went and he was just having a good time. He had a beer, and I walked by him like, hey man, just said hello. And he was very engaging, but if he would have been locked into something, I just judge each situation. So I don't know. Did you say hi to him?
I did not. I did not. Okay. I got a blurry picture of him, but that's about it. And you and Adam Pearce seeing each other in a bar. It's like the Spider-Man meme.
I know, right? Yeah. So I had to get
razors.
Yeah. He just, he was dying to meet me, so I got a picture from him, but like most of the time I will ignore as well. Even if it was Brett, I'm like, I'm not going to bother him. I work in a really like ritzy part of the city here. And so like a lot of athletes and celebrities live near me. So they're in a lot and stuff. So I usually don't say anything. I don't want to be the weirdo, or whatever. So I kind of treat wrestling the same way. It would just kind of depend. It's like when I saw Adam Pearce having a good time, I'm like, oh, he's approachable. But Brett with his wife talking, I'm like, might be best not to tap them on the shoulder, or whatever. And I ran into his wife at WrestleCon and said hello, and she was not very responsive. I think I almost creeped her out. I recognized her. She was nowhere. Brett was in the room. She was on the whole other side of the hotel. I'm like, hi. I was like, I just want to say hello. You're Brett's wife, right? Just a big fan. And she was,
that's funny.
She's like, she looked at me like, thanks. I'm like, I'm not a creep. I'm not hitting on you. Just chill out. I'm like, I'm just literally saying hello to you. Hi, how you doing? I recognize you.
Maybe she thought you were Steve Austin.
Maybe.
She didn't like that.
Like, I think your husband's awesome. I'm not trying to, make you feel.
I remember 97. We're not doing this again.
Yeah. That's probably was it. She goes, I remember what you did to my baby. So.
Once again, thank you to Greg from GoodMicWork Commentaries for joining me on the program. go check out GoodMicWork wherever you listen on YouTube. Subscribe to his page, subscribe to his OnlyFans, give him a slap on the ass, put some whipped cream on his nipples, and do all of those things to him, to me, and to your mother. You know, it's Mother's Day. Or a little bit past. Belated. So, all right. We're done here, I think. Make sure you join the Discord too. I think I plugged that in the beginning. I always forget to plug it. Oh, man. Appreciate you guys joining. Love you all. Big ol' smooches all around. I'm hard.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.